What's happening, Andy? Here I am joined by Jim Coriddi of Ricoh. How are you, Jim? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Andy. How's it going? You staying out of the cold up there?
Oh my God, it's freezing out here. It is snowing sideways and upside down right now. Yeah, it's pretty nasty here. You're down in Jersey, and it's probably a little bit better, but not much, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, no, it's been very cold, but today was a balmy 50 degrees, so we were
Woo!
taking advantage of that. But yeah, it's been a little chilly.
Well, buckle up because we're sending some snow your way. If anything, if what I'm looking at is coming is good, if that's going west or east, excuse me, that's coming to you. So anyway, like your Eagles ball behind you. You got a big game coming up. Just a little surprised it's not Giants. I guess not too surprised, but is what it is.
Well, we're Rico's a sponsor, a major sponsor
That's
with
right.
the
That's
Eagles.
right.
So that's been pretty fortunate. I'm actually a Jets fan.
Oh boy.
That's unfortunate, yeah. But anyway, yeah, it has the Rico
Someday.
logo on it, so that's
Someday,
why it's
someday,
okay.
right? Everyone's everyone's got those years. Anyway, it's the Jets down year, and I'm sorry to hear that. We don't need to get into who you are. Everybody's seen you on the show before, and you've been with Rico for far longer than anybody could probably believe. And you are the face of the dealers organization out there, and so I thought maybe we'd check in, see how your year went last year, and talk about 2025, what's happening with Rico. So. Let's start with that. Tell me how 2024 go? What were some big milestones you guys achieved, and what stood out to you?
Sure. So 2024, as our fiscal years go, we're nine and a half, 10 months into our year. We're April through March. But when you look at 2024, some of the highlights, I mean, the last full month we had was December. We had a huge month on the core side, on the hardware side. It was actually a record month for production. And so year to date, we've seen growth in hardware and growth in software. Software led by DocuWare, we continue to have major growth. Hardware, we had some growth, but not the same as it was 23 over 22, because I think things in 23 were a little inflated because of supply chain and the carryover. But overall, the business, is in a positive position. We've become, certainly very aggressive in now our last quarter of the year. So we're gearing up for a strong close to that. And at the same time, obviously building our plans going into fiscal 25. But the big thing this year has been around us really leaning into the dealer business that much more. I think our CEO, Carsten Bruhn, he's been here about 3 years now, and more, his focus has been to look to expand the partnerships with our dealers more and more, and that's been great. And certainly having that sales type of mentality has been very positive for us. And now, like I said, we go into 25 looking for that next evolution of our commitment to be the number one dealer partner. But so overall, I think we'll close out this year strong, particularly on the dealer business. So it's been a good year.
Well, you guys certainly, you got the product line to excel in production, and that does seem to be sort of the sweet spot these days. Any dealer that's growing is firmly entrenched in production. You're one of, three or four companies that I would say are in that upper echelon that really play there. You have that facility in Boulder. I've been there a couple times where, you take things up a couple notches and you show them you're not just a one-trick pony. You've been doing this for a long time. You've got a lot of product. You got products from some of those other companies who are your competitors at some points, right? So you sell inkjet, you sell laser. Um, Production had a really good year. What do you think it was about that segment that's still thriving when, Office? I would say it's, slowly starting. We're starting to see a bit of a decline, or at least a shift to A4 is, well, that's full on. But, what do you think it is about production that was so strong last year for you guys and for the industry in general? You're not the only one who had a good year in production.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say starting with the trends that we've seen, I don't want to go all the way back to the pandemic, but coming out of that time frame, I think a shift we've seen in print volume has gone to more a centralized approach. And we've seen not only more placements and more focus to bring in production equipment, but we've also seen more print volume go from office to, in-house production, and particularly in color. So that's been good for all of us, on a lot of different levels. And and then specific to Ricoh, I think, and the other thing I would say that we saw was even within the production category, we saw a much heavier mix to the higher end. So that certainly has been, a boost on the revenue side. What I would say specific about Ricoh and the leadership position, we've been in certain segments. This is a product of investments and acquisitions we've made in the past. You remember the acquisition of Hitachi and IBM Print Solutions, and a lot of this is starting to rear its head in that way. Just like now, getting off of production and then more, in the general business, what we're seeing is the investment we made to acquire PFU, the Fujitsu scanning arm. What you're going to be seeing more and more coming out from Ricoh is more robust scanning as that becomes more and more, a part of where the market's going. So a lot of this, when we look at production and that opportunity, I think a lot of it for Ricoh came from investments we've made in the past that are now starting to bear fruit, at higher levels.
Well, throw onto that DocuWare, right? You kind of mentioned it before, but that fits right into what you were just saying. Another acquisition that ties in nicely to the core of what Ricoh did, and now, obviously goes really well with the Fujitsu acquisition. So there's this synergy between these different groups, and by the way, congratulations for, keeping your hand out of the cookie jar in both of those companies. Let's just say in the past, Ricoh had, and you've been here long enough that you've seen it, but Ricoh has tended to let the company that they acquire just sort of take the reins and just take over. And sometimes that hasn't always gone so well. And sometimes those brands have been integrated and even disappeared over times. But, to your credit, DocuWare is still DocuWare. The Fujitsu products, you rename them Ricoh, but they're still a standalone part of your company. It's not coming out of a Ricoh factory. Well, it is now, but you know what I'm saying. It's the product that you bought, right? You haven't changed it. You haven't, to my knowledge, you haven't canceled any of the partners that Fujitsu had worked with back in the day. So, keeping your hands off of it, letting it run for the reason that you bought it, has been a different take than I'm used to seeing, and it seems to be working well. To the point where I see even some of your competitors at these events, and a lot of your competitors at some of these events. The DocuWare is the best example of that, where there are more people from other companies than there are from Ricoh at that event, and it's pretty amazing to see how widely used that product still is. Looking forward, what do you see with DocuWare, and how is that going to grow in importance to what you guys are offering, especially with the dealer channel?
Well, I mean, content management, that's a business segment that has tremendous growth and tremendous forecasted growth going forward. The most recent thing we've seen with DocuWare, or the market seen with DocuWare, is our acquisition of Native AI, a software company that is now being incorporated into the DocuWare platform. So we're going to be bringing artificial intelligence in to truly create that intelligent document.
Yep.
So when we talk about how what we're looking to provide for our dealers, the ability to go to their clients and their customer base and expand what they do to manage the customer's overall information, not just the print. These are the type of investments that Ricoh is making. These are the type of things. When I say Ricoh is an innovative company, I don't just mean because we manufacture, we've been a little ahead of the curve here and there on manufacturing product. I mean, even the moves and the strategies that we deploy. We talked about those past acquisitions we've done that has helped our manufacturing. You mentioned some of the acquisitions we've done in the past that are now starting to bear fruit, in other ways. And that's what puts us in a position to be that partner that our dealers are going to need as we go forward, because that's going to continue. Those type of investments, that type of forward thinking, whether it's with those kind of acquisitions or what we did in 2017, when we turned basically the SMB over to our dealers. At the time, we sold service contracts from direct to an amount of our dealers, and then had our dealers take over SMB. There's other manufacturers that have tried to do those kind of things after. Even what we're doing in our joint venture, with manufacturing, was something that all of a sudden you're starting to hear and see more about. That's what makes Ricoh the company that we are. That's what puts us in a position to be able to support a broader base of business for our dealers.
Well, that's a great segue. You mentioned I assume you were talking about the collaboration that you got the merger, or what, tell me what you want to call it, the program you're putting together with Toshiba. Let's get an update on that. Where do things stand? I know end of last year you came up with a name. The company seems to be starting to pull things together. So what's happening with the new company and the Toshiba?
Yeah, I mean, just to make it straight, it's a joint venture.
Yep,
It's 85% owned by Ricoh, and the new company name is Etria, Etria,
yep.
as of July of this past year. And what it was all about is it put us in a position to um, not only to be able to get the cost efficiencies in manufacturing for MFPs for years to come. I mean, this shows the ultimate commitment to our future in print. But the thing that Ricoh's done, maybe a little bit different than some of the other companies you've heard, is that this venture starts right from R&D so that we're able to manufacture better products from the get-go, as opposed to, yeah, we'll make this for you, you'll make that for us. This goes more at the core of the design and the R&D, and that's something that we feel is going to be a differentiator, for a long time to come. But the big thing I would say is, first of all, as far as our companies between Ricoh and Toshiba, Ricoh remains totally independent. Neither company has line of sight to the other's plans. We're going to continue to market and support businesses differently and separately. But in the end, we learned a lot from the supply chain issues during the pandemic a few years ago. And it's all about sourcing the parts and components and having a wider variety of vendors and all that. Well, this gives a tremendous amount of flexibility to have additional facilities and different sources and things like that. And by the way, right now, I almost feel like I have to say it. Our inventory is humming. Like I said, we had a huge December and we didn't miss a beat. So it's exciting. It's exciting to what it's doing now, and it's exciting to, what we'll see in the future.
Well, it's, everybody in our world seems to be of the opinion that, and myself, I include in this list, that, the industry is consolidating. A lot of people think that you looking ahead, probably three or four mega companies will run this industry, and it looks like you're going to be one of them. We can talk about who the others are, and we all probably have a very similar list, but you definitely threw the gauntlet down and started moving things along with you and Toshiba, and you do increase the buying power. You've got, two companies that are trying to buy chips against each other, bidding against each other in some cases, I would imagine, and driving the price up, and now you double the order. Maybe not double it, but you know what I'm saying. You can pile it on together and you get a better discount, right? Your dealers understand how that works. So I think going forward that's something that you needed to do to be more competitive, and it's exciting to watch it. It definitely, over the last year, that was one of the big stories. We've got Konica, Minolta, and Fuji had some announcements last year and end of last year, and Lexmark and Xerox are coming together. I mean, everything is starting to do that, and you guys really were the first ones to really start pulling that together. Um, I won't badge it on that because I think you've given us all you're able to give us on it. I want to find out before I let you go. What's happening this year? What do you guys have planned? Are we going to do a big show? Are we going to do lots of the regional shows? And if so, where are we going to do them? What do you guys have on your plate for
Well, I
20?
think, looking at 2025, like I said, our fiscal year starts in April, so we're finalizing all our plans now. But the big focus for Ricoh in 2025 is to continue to accelerate growth. We've been more aggressive on multiple fronts. We've won more large deals with our program. We call our SAS program. We've won more large deals in 24 than since, before the pandemic. But another thing we're looking to do, we're really going to look to focus on improving business efficiencies with our dealer partners. So we're planning a lot of exciting changes to better support our dealers. And I'm talking about operations type processes, supply chain, marketing, right through field support. That's going to be a major focus, and we have some announcements coming out early in 25 to make some changes in those areas. And I mentioned our field support. A lot of our competitors have been cutting back on field support, and that's something that Ricoh people are a very big part of our strategy, and we're going to continue to invest to make our people and provide our people with the skill set that make a difference to help our dealers not only close the sale, but even looking to focus on helping generate the opportunities and really getting involved at the field level. So that's one part of the business. The more core element, our portfolio, we're going to look to continue to align more and more and better with the changes in the marketplace. We talked about production. Certainly A4 is a big part of that. And our CEO Carsten Bruhn, has made it. He's articulated quite a bit about build, buy, and partner. And again, having a CEO with that sales background and that mentality, he's looking to expand the business. He's looking to have dealer be a bigger part of Ricoh's overall plan. And that's exciting. And then, finally, we add into that what we were mentioning before, that we are looking to provide our dealers with what they need to kind of change that conversation with customers to, again, manage the overall information rather than just the print. And we're doing that with software and services capabilities. And we're doing that with a lot of other adjacencies like DocuWare, as you mentioned, PFU with the scanning, even AV, a company we acquired, Cinero, that provides AV services. We now have a dealer program for that. And all that is to help us build, a power base of offerings for our dealers to help grow more market share. So, we'll see in the spring, we have, different products coming out that's going to leverage our acquisition of PFU with the scanning technology, and several other things. So we're very excited going into 25. We have some nice momentum, but as I said, we're looking to take this to a whole nother level.
So
As far as our you mentioned the shows and
yeah.
the events we're going to have. So I just wanted to tell you, so that's what we're doing.
Well, that's
As
so the
far as
question is how do you get that
communicating it,
information out to everybody, right? So
right.
and that's good lead in there. Good lead in question for me.
So yeah, good job. So I think, when we look at the events we're going to have, um, what we learned from the past couple of years is our dealers really appreciate a more intimate setting. And last year we went with relatively small regional type of events. This year we're going to try to stay on that same plane, maybe have them be a little bit bigger, but still allowing for that more personalized interaction, having more workshop oriented, so we get that exchange, and even from the general sessions, making those small enough to have more engagement with Carsten, myself, and the other leaders at Ricoh. So we'll be looking in the early fall timeframe to have a few of those events. In between or prior to that, we'll certainly be doing a lot more local type of communications. But the events that you're asking about, that'll be in early fall. We'll have a few of those broken out separately to make it a little more convenient for our dealers, not just smaller in group, but making the travel a little more convenient.
I love those. I think for so many reasons. First, you mentioned travel, and when you have a big show, they're typically in a city that can handle a big show. And I've been to some Ricoh shows that have been well over 1,000 people,
Oh
and
yeah,
usually those are in like Vegas or somewhere that can handle it. And you got you lose a day out, you lose a day back, and just the regional shows, being able to hop in your car or get on a plane, and hopefully it's just a quick flight, right? And now we're talking a day or two out of the office instead of 3 or 4, and
right.
it's so much more efficient. Um, the ability, we talked about this earlier, but just when you guys are at these big giant events with 1,000 people, you've got 1,000 people there, and if you get more than 2 words with any of them, that's a lot, right? So to be able to sit down with 50 or 100 or whatever that number is going to be, and people at different levels too, not necessarily just the owners who already know you, but to be able to shake hands with the sales reps and maybe some of the service managers and some of the people that you don't normally get to see at the big shows. It builds some loyalty. It gives them the ability to just feel like their voice matters. They can talk to you, ask questions. When I was a sales rep and you met somebody from corporate, it was a big deal. Let alone somebody who's a vice president or a president, like a CEO, somebody at Karsten's level. It's a motivational factor, I think, for a sales rep when they get to meet somebody at that level, and they make them excited to go sell. And I think Carson's really good at that too. He's a sales guy, so he gets people fired up. I can see that at least on the sales side. I don't know on the other parts of your company, but he gets people wanting to get out there and go. So I love those regional shows. How do you know how many you're thinking of, or is it too early for that?
Yeah, we're thinking of three.
Okay, so one middle, one west, one east. So very cool. Man, sometimes you guys will do like six, and then it's one of those like sounded like a good idea when you were planning it, but then you have to go to six different cities in 6 weeks. And
Exactly.
I've seen bad
Exactly.
movies like that. That's a lot. That's a lot. There's got to be a middle ground. I think three's good. Three's
You
good.
know
So
what, Andy, what you said, you bring up a good point. Like you say, it's good for folks to be able to talk to the Rico leaders. But I'll tell you, on the Rico side, we get so much out of those interactions. I mean, because
you
we
must.
always try to focus in on our dealers' business because everything's changing so quickly. So what you think at one point in the year versus the way things go 6 or 8 months later, you really have to refresh your thinking on an ongoing basis. And, we do that dealer by dealer. These shows allow us to get waves of that and put ourselves in an environment to really have that interaction and get that input, which is priceless because you have to be timely. The decisions that we need to make on what to invest in, that has to be timely to be hard hitting to get the most out of it. So we as much as we're trying to provide for our dealers, we get a lot out of those events also.
Well, it definitely goes both ways, right? You're not going to know what you need to do for these guys if you don't listen to them, and you know, getting yourself in front of them, going to visit them at their. You can only visit so many dealers in a year, but to bring them in, to a couple regional meetings, you get a big handfuls of them at once, and but not too many that you can't really remember what you talked about, and it's a good way to do it, and it keeps you close to them because your competitors are doing that, and you need to obviously make sure that you're getting your story there and talking about all the things that Ricoh's doing behind the scenes because you're doing a lot, and it's tough to get to make sure they understand all these things, and you've got to make sure that they understand that you're not just obviously some copier company from the 80s. You guys are in all these different markets. You're helping them diversify their portfolios, move into new areas, whether it's scanning, whether it's document management, production, whatever. I mean, you guys have really brought a lot of different categories to them that didn't exist 5, 10, 20 years ago in the Ricoh portfolio.
No, no doubt, no doubt.
Well, this has been awesome. So we are definitely coming up on the end of it. We're probably a little over, but that's typically the way I go. I appreciate this. This has been awesome. Always great seeing you, catching up. I'm sure I'll be seeing you at some of these events coming up. There's a lot of them.
Yep.
Any last shout outs, any last messages for everyone?
I would just say, I just think for our dealers, this is a very exciting time. Sometimes exciting is a euphemism for scary, because things continue to change so much. But I think we're in a position where what it's going to come down to is the competitive differentiation is going to be in partnering. Our dealers can't do it all on their own. We can't do it all on our own, but coming together and working in a more partnering way is going to make us successful and profitable going forward. So that's our focus going into 25.
Well, I think you're right, and I've noticed the language has changed over the years, and what used to be OEMs and vendors, everybody wants to be, and I think you both realize it used to be very preachy. Here's the new product, go sell it, and now there's a lot more back and forth on the development on what kinds of products, what kinds of services would you want from us, and you've developed a lot over the years based on their feedback, so it's got to go both ways. I completely agree with that, and with that. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been great. Always nice to catch up with you, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, always a pleasure. Take
Great seeing
care.
you, Jim. Thank you.
Bye-bye.